everyone. Welcome back to the Wellness Pharmacist. I'm Dr. Kat, and as always, I'm thrilled to have you here. Now, I want to start today's episode with a little disclaimer. This one's a little different. Normally, I stick pretty closely to my outline, but I'll be veering off today because this is an issue that's personal and really close to my heart. Today, we're talking about weight shaming in healthcare. Something that so many of us have dealt with in one form or another, and I've experienced firsthand. I know how it feels to walk into a doctor's office with a complex health concern and feel like we're being reduced to that number on a scale, and by erroneous assumptions too, might I add, just based on our appearance. It's frustrating, but it's also isolating, and honestly, it's extremely hurtful. So I'll be sharing a bit of my own journey today, as well as some insights that I hope will help you feel just a little less alone, and maybe a little more empowered if you've been through this too. So with that said, let's get going. Let's jump in. I want to start by sharing a bit of my own experience with weight shaming in healthcare settings because I know many of you can relate. So let me paint a picture. I'm dealing with chronic health issues because I have multiple chronic health issues. One of them is chronic fatigue. I have systemic lupus and a few other serious things. So I'm dealing with these chronic health issues. I'm trying to manage my stress, although not very well. There's this work-life balance that seems to elude me, although I'm trying desperately. And on top of all of that, I'm also trying to maintain some kind of healthy lifestyle. And every time I go into a doctor's office, it seems, the primary focus of that visit, regardless of what I'm there for, is my weight. I've had my hemoglobin A1C tested multiple times each year because they're expecting to see type 2 diabetes, simply based on my outward appearance, which is infuriating. Because guess what? Every single blasted time, my levels come back normal. Every time. And still, for years, they keep testing my hemoglobin A1C like it's going to miraculously appear that, see, there's the problem, let's get you on a medication. It's like they can't believe it that, she's defied the odds. She can't possibly defy the odds for much longer. Guys, that's horrible. That's horrible to do to your, quote, patients. I like to call them clients. It's horrible to happen to you as a person. Imagine that happening to your grandparent or your child or your parent or your sibling or your best friend. It's not okay. And then there's the weight loss advice, or should I say lack thereof. Yes, I'm very upset about this. This is angering to me because it hits home. I've had doctors, GPs, I've had specialists, all of them, look at me and say, you really need to lose 40 to 50 pounds. 40 to 50 pounds. Whoa, okay. So you're just sitting there in their doctor's office. You're there for another concern, and they're like, woo, you need to lose 40, 50 pounds. I'll give you an example. So ladies that are listening, my last 2 gynecological visits, you're in there. Everybody knows what happens in those visits, right? We have to disrobe, get into a very revealing robe, and it's a very vulnerable experience for a female. Then imagine after that, imagine the physician looking at you saying, you need to lose 40 to 50 pounds. What? Are you kidding me? That happened on more than one occasion. But it's one thing to say you need to lose weight. It's another to actually give advice on how to do it. And, unfortunately, that's where the advice stops. It's just, you need to lose weight. some number, 100 pounds, right? 150 pounds, whatever it is. No follow-up on exactly how to do any of it, or acknowledgement that there could be other factors at play here to cause weight gain or to cause you to be unable to lose the weight in the first place. It's just this solitary focus on the scale without considering that there's a whole other person in front of them who's managing multiple layers of not just healthcare challenges, not just health challenges, but life challenges. So they're seeing this number on the scale instead of me as a person sitting in front of them. And I have to tell you, it's hurtful. It's also not helpful. Not only is this approach frustrating, but it's damaging. It creates a vicious cycle where instead of feeling supported like we should when we go into a doctor's office, we leave feeling ashamed. We feel judged and like I'm just some sort of number on a scale, and they're making a lot of assumptions that are wrong. They're erroneous. But they don't know that because they don't ask. Now, I know I'm not alone in this. So many of us who live with chronic conditions, autoimmune diseases, and other health challenges face the same issue. We face this. And the irony is, weight is rarely the only factor impacting our health. For me, I've been working with a dietitian. I've been fortunate enough to do that for the last 2 years, over 2 years now, actually. And I've been making small changes along the way and trying to figure out what works best for my body and my autoimmune diseases and the situation that I'm in. But weight loss isn't happening. It's just not happening like they expect. And it's not because I'm not trying. I'm desperately trying. It's just not that simple. It's not just calories in versus calories out, which I hear all over the forums. Personal trainers and everything else, and God bless personal trainers, right? We need them. It's not that simple for a portion of the population. It's not. And I know there are so many others out there listening, and you're nodding your head. You're going, yes, right on. This is exactly the same thing that I'm experiencing. And that's what today's episode's all about. Exploring why there's this solitary focus on weight. Because it's not just problematic. It's often counterproductive. Whether you've been through this yourself and you're nodding along, or you want to better understand it for a loved one, which I admire you for and I applaud you for. I do hope you'll stick around because there's real impact of weight shaming on people in healthcare, and we need to explore what we can do to advocate for ourselves and for our loved ones. So what does weight shaming do to a person's health? When a healthcare professional singles us out based on weight alone as the main issue, they're often ignoring what? They're ignoring everything else that's going on with us. It creates tunnel vision. They focus so hard on the scale that they're missing the whole big picture. I've read numerous studies showing weight shaming doesn't encourage people to lose weight or to live healthier lifestyles. It used to be, and it still is, this bully kind of approach that, hey, if we just keep hammering them, they're gonna, fly right. They will eat better and they will lose the weight. And it's just not true. In fact, it can have the opposite effect. People who are shamed for their weight often report feeling less motivated to exercise, more likely to engage in comfort eating, and less inclined to seek medical help in the future, which is exactly the opposite of what we need them to do. Imagine going through something as serious as an autoimmune disease or chronic illness, needing help, but then you dread the experience because of the weight conversation you know is coming, because it will. That's not productive. It's not productive for anyone. And we need to talk about the mental toll here. Weight shaming creates a deep sense of this frustration, a deep sense of shame and fear in people who are already dealing with too much on their plate. They don't need this. We start associating going to the doctor with dread. And for many people, it leads to anxiety, depression, and self-doubt, especially when we're putting in the effort to make lifestyle changes, like they say, if they give us advice at all. And we're still not seeing the weight fall off, and we're going, what are we doing wrong? We keep going back and they keep judging us and they keep making these erroneous assumptions. If you can get a dietitian, I advise it. That would be great. But a lot of people don't have access to that. So we're just surfing the net trying to find it out because our doctors, for whatever reason, maybe they don't have the time, but they don't give us the advice that we need. I even had one specialist ask me, how did you lose some weight? When I actually did lose some weight. She wanted to know because she didn't know what to tell her patients because I'd asked her and she was like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. This is a thyroid specialist, guys. And yes, I have thyroid disease. So when we're putting in this effort and then we go in and we get judged, these feelings can be damaging. These shameful feelings can be damaging to our health and physically. There can be a physical fallout because when we're down and out, our immune systems don't work as well. So we just get sicker. The cycle just keeps going. The truth is that weight is one part of our overall health picture. Focusing in on it can lead to isolation and misdiagnoses or missed diagnoses, right? Like they may miss something because they're so focused on the weight. Imagine a doctor focusing solely on your weight when underlying symptoms could indicate something else entirely. Like for someone I know, they had had sore throat and they were like, I'm pretty sure I have strep throat. They went in. The doctor harped on they needed to lose 75 pounds. And this woman's like, yeah, so I'm not here for that. Like my throat, do I have strep or not? Oh yeah, you have strep. But they didn't want to talk about the strep. They wanted to talk about her weight. That's not what she was there for. So they were focusing on that. Oh, let me swab your throat. Are you kidding me? Imagine that. Imagine you have thyroid disease and they're like, no, that's not possible. It's not possible. I have thyroid disease, guys. It's so hard for me to lose weight because of it. There can also be stress-induced cortisol imbalances. This is huge. So if they're not checking your cortisol levels, cortisol is the body's natural defense in a stress situation. It's the body's natural steroid. And I think most people understand what corticosteroids do. If you take steroids for something, boy, if you have sore muscles or you have injury related to inflammation, steroids are great. However, a side effect of steroids is weight gain. So our bodies, if we're naturally producing a lot of cortisol, we will gain weight. And stress does that. So I've had this happen to me personally, where I couldn't lose the weight and I can't lose the weight. And my regular doctors and specialists, they were just dismissing me. And I'm like, I'm gaining all this weight. I don't need to gain the weight. And then it hit to the weight shaming part for years. And then I finally got a dietitian that specialized in autoimmune disease. And she's helped me kind of get off the weight and more on trying to repair my body. But in so doing, I got into with a functional medicine doctor and they checked my cortisol levels. Guys, it was off the charts high and it still remains that way. So until that comes down, until the stress of midlife that I'm in with job and family and all this other stuff, my health that's going on, my anxiety levels are through the roof, my stress levels, okay? As long as that cortisol remains high, I'm not losing weight. I don't care what I'm doing. So, but it took that extra prodding and speaking up for myself, which was difficult, and getting second opinions and third opinions and fourth opinions in order to get to that point to I go, okay, I cannot lose this weight until I get my stress under control. This is huge for a lot of people. And they're not looking at this. It's an easy lab test to draw, and most regular physicians won't do it. And then there's even medication side effects. So if we are showing depression and symptoms of that, then they'll put us on that, and then it makes it even that much harder to lose the weight because side effects of some of those medications include weight gain. What I'm saying is we need a more holistic approach to healthcare. One that sees us as a whole complex individual and not just some number on a scale. This is why we need to feel empowered to advocate for ourselves. It's not easy, like I said, to challenge medical professionals, but it is critical to make sure we're getting the right care. We have the right to ask for other solutions. We have the right to bring up the other factors affecting our health. And we have the right to expect respect. RESPECT, that song, she's got it right. We have the right to expect respect and understanding from those who are there to help us, not to shame us, not to make assumptions. All right, so we've explored the problem. What about solutions, right? How can we stand up for ourselves in a healthcare setting and settings and make sure we're seen as a whole person and not just some number on a scale? Okay, number one, know your rights. First off, know that you have the right to be treated with RESPECT, respect, compassion, and understanding. Most of the time in their mission statement, it's there. You have the right to be treated with respect, compassion, and understanding. I've read that on multiple places that I've gone, and of course, I didn't receive it. So I went somewhere else. I was able to do that. You're not required to discuss your weight. You are not required to discuss your weight if it feels irrelevant to the health issue you're there for. So if you're in there for strep throat, what are you talking about weight for? If you have, a podiatry issue or something like that, like you've broken a bone or something, what are you talking about your weight for? You broke a bone, set it. Okay? It's irrelevant to talk about weight at this point. I always remind myself that I have every right to redirect this conversation to what I'm actually concerned about, to what I'm there for, especially if it steers towards the weight conversation. It's feeling dismissive and judgmental. Number two, prepare for appointments. I've said this in another episode, and I can't stress this enough. One of the best ways to advocate for ourselves is to go into an appointment prepared. What does this mean? So we bring up specific symptoms that we have. Keep a health journal. So every day, write down what's going on. If you've eaten something and you feel weird about it, or your energy levels, or aches and pains, that sort of thing, keep a health journal. And if necessary, come with questions. Write down the questions that you have that will keep the conversation focused on your actual health needs. And if the topic of weight does come up, because it will, we then steer it back to the symptoms and our goals that we have that matter most to us. So what are your goals, right? For that appointment. Number three, be ready to advocate firmly but respectfully. Remember the RESPECT. You guys are hearing that in your head, aren't you? When the conversation does veer off into the weight, because again, it will, we don't have to shy away from speaking up. We politely remind our providers that we're already working with a dietitian if you're working with a dietitian, or if you're already working on it, you politely remind them. Or if you need help, you say, can you recommend a dietitian that fits in my healthcare plan with my insurance? Okay, you politely talk to them about it, and that you'd like to discuss other factors affecting your health, like sleep, like stress, or medication side effects. Sometimes this gentle nudge is all it takes to bring the focus back to where it needs to be. Number four, if you can, find providers who listen. So I know in certain countries, that's almost impossible. You're assigned a primary healthcare professional. It's very difficult to go and get someone on your own unless you have saved up a ton of money and you can pay for a private doctor, which I know a lot of people can't. So if you can do this, great. If you can't, try and work with the above three that I've mentioned. If you can, find a provider who listens. If you can, save money. And I've had to scrimp and scrape to try and save up money to do this for myself, because I make hardly any money. So it's taken a lot, and yet I've done it. So I don't go and get some treats and things like that. But if you can't, don't worry about it. You can always work with the above three. If you can find a provider who listens, this is great. It's a big one. Don't be afraid to seek out other healthcare providers who listen and understand your situation. I did that with my dietitian. If a doctor makes you feel uncomfortable, judged, or unseen, it's obviously okay to look for a new one who respects you and your health journey. It might take time, but finding another provider who then treats you holistically can make a huge difference in your situation, and it has in mine. Again, I still haven't lost the weight. I do feel better physically and emotionally though. And that's worth its weight in gold. Number 5, set small personal goals. Everybody can do this. We want to focus on what matters to us most. Instead of chasing a number on a scale that they seem to like to chase, like BMI. BMI is a thing of the past. It's a thing of the past. We have bodybuilders, weight builders that are in great shape and they're too big. Guys, it was initially meant for scientific studies, experiments, and then they just kind of adopted it. So we need to veer away from that. And people are starting to do it, but not fast enough in my opinion. So we're not just this number on a scale. We need to think about the goals that support us and our well-being. So in other words, focus on small personal goals. I want to be able to sit on the floor with my grandkids someday, right? I want to be able to throw a ball and play catch with my child or my grandchild. Maybe it's being able to get up and just take a shower, or maybe it's walking to the mailbox to get your mail, or it could be to be in a 5K, or to go to a grocery store and be able to buy your own groceries. Something, whatever the goals are, those are great goals. So whether it's having more energy, reducing pain, or even simply feeling better day to day, these are goals that go beyond the scale and they make a huge difference. Weight may or may not change as a result of these, and that's okay. But if your overall health continues to improve, that's the most important thing. Standing up for ourselves is not easy. But remember, you're not alone in this. So many of us are pushing back against unhelpful and outdated views of health. With each step that we take, we're making it easier for those behind us to demand better. That's for our kids. That's for our grandkids. So let's keep pushing for healthcare that sees us fully, that sees us as a human, as a full, complex human, as individuals, and respects, RESPECT, our unique health journeys. Thank you for joining me on this episode. It's a very different kind of episode of the Wellness Pharmacist. Weight shaming is a complex and deeply personal issue, and it does affect so many of us on levels that are hard to put into words. I hope this episode has given you some validation if you've experienced similar struggles, and maybe it's a bit more understanding if you haven't. It's essential to remember that we are more than numbers on a scale. We are more than lab results. We are a whole person with unique stories, unique challenges. We have unique strengths. My hope is that by sharing these experiences, we can start to shift the conversation toward compassion, toward understanding, and toward true wellness for everyone, no matter their size. Thank you again for listening and taking the time out of your day. Let's continue advocating for a more respectful, holistic approach to health. That's it for today. Take care, everyone. And if you have ideas for a podcast episode, I'd love to hear them. Reach out to me via email or my website. And until next time, be well.